All three of these new proposals will force everyday Australians out of their homes to make way for the large families and family co-location evident amongst new arrivals. Labor Party-aligned researcher Cos Samaras has shown these new arrivals vote heavily for Labor. Minister, why are you forcing Australians out of their home to make way for Labor voting new arrivals? And where are Australians supposed to go? My question is to the Minister for Finance, Senator Gallagher, relating to taxation proposals debated at last week's Productivity Roundtable. The proposal was to force homeowners with a spare bedroom to take in strangers as renters under threat of financial penalty, a tax if they don't. Minister, why did the Roundtable even consider this monstrous idea, and will you now rule the idea out so our elderly can have peace of mind they won't have strangers forced into their family home?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Roberts for the question. There was a pretty wide discussion on tax and Australia's tax system. I did not attend all of those sessions, and I was not at a session where that was raised. Senator Roberts, there was discussion around housing, as you would expect, and different views being put around the table. I think what I picked up from the two sessions that I attended late on the third day was there was a view about ensuring that the tax system is efficient. There was certainly views about it being simplified. There were different views around business taxation, and there were also discussions around intergenerational equity, about how the tax system is working for different generations. But the specifics of what you've raised was not raised with me by any roundtable participant, and I was not at a session where that was raised as something that people were seeking. And it's not something the government has worked on.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Roberts, first supplementary.
Thank you. Additionally, the Roundtable debated a death tax on the family home and a land tax on the value of the property. Minister, are these mutually exclusive taxes, or will this government be introducing all three?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Gallagher.
Well, again, in the sessions that I was a participant at, that was not raised. And we have, and I think the Treasurer and the Prime Minister were clear in the lead-up to the roundtable that there are no plans to change the taxation of owner-occupied homes, and I've not been part of any discussions around that, Senator Roberts. So I'm not sure. Part of the discussion that was had was much more high level around how the tax system is working, how complicated it can be, and whether or not it's working in the interests. It's fair. The system is fair and working in the interests of every generation in this country. There were mixed views about that, but that was certain. There was certainly no outcomes that go to anywhere near what you have been asking about today. The tax system, the tax changes, reforms that we will be doing are the ones we took to the election, which was about standard deductions and also around income tax.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Roberts, second supplementary.
Thank you. All three of these new proposals will force everyday Australians out of their homes to make way for the large families and family co-location evident amongst new arrivals. Labor Party-aligned researcher Cos Samaras has shown these new arrivals vote heavily for Labor. Minister, why are you forcing Australians out of their home to make way for Labor voting new arrivals? And where are Australians supposed to go?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Gallagher.
Well, there's
order on my right. Order.
There was a lot in that, President, and I hope that I have answered your concerns around some of the ideas you say. They were not outcomes. In fact, in the sessions I was at, they were not raised. So I don't know anything about that. In relation to housing more generally, we are trying to build more housing. I mean, part of what we've been doing in this place and will continue to do, and indeed the announcement by the Prime Minister and the Housing Minister today, was how do we ensure that housing ownership, owning your own home, isn't out of reach of generations of Australians, and also how do we build more supply.
Oi, mate. You ever seen a politician get roasted so hard you swear the Parliament House fire alarms should have gone off? I'm talking flames, smoke, the whole bloody show. Well, buckle up, because what you're about to see is Malcolm Roberts. Yeah, the bloke they call the bulldog of the Senate, absolutely tearing strips off Katie Gallagher and the Albanese mob's clown show of policies, all on live TV. No censorship, no spin. This wasn't just a polite little disagreement. Nah, this was political WWE, and trust me, Katie Gallagher looked like she got smacked with a folding chair halfway through the round. Albanese might as well have stayed home polishing his tax excuses, because his finance minister was left swinging in the wind, and Malcolm didn't hold back. Before we dive deeper into this Roberts-Gallagher Senate showdown, where Malcolm torched Labor's housing spin, Gallagher folded like a cheap camping chair, and Albo was nowhere to be found, smashed that like button harder than Roberts smashed her talking points. Subscribe if you're sick of Labor dodging straight answers. And grab the Who Voted for This shirt, links in the description. And look, let's call it what it is. The Labor Party under Albo is running this country like a dodgy sausage sizzle fundraiser outside a closed Bunnings. The snags are burnt, the onions are raw, and the sauce bottle's bloody empty. People are struggling to pay the bills. Interest rates are hammering families harder than a tradie on overtime. And yet, what do we get from Albo's dream team? Policies so cooked you'd think they were written after a six-pack of VB and a few darts in the car park. And mate, when Roberts walked into that chamber, it wasn't just questions he was throwing. It was truth bombs that exploded louder than a Hills hoist in a cyclone. So picture this. Roberts leans in, looks Gallagher dead in the eyes, and goes, "Why the bloody hell was there even a discussion about forcing Aussies to rent out their spare bedrooms or cop a tax hit?" And the whole room goes dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Somewhere a staffer nearly spilled their instant coffee. And I swear, if you listen closely, you can hear Albo's PR team screaming in the distance. Like, who even thinks up this garbage? What genius reckons the solution to the housing crisis is to shove a random stranger named Chad into your spare room? What's next? Compulsory tent cities on the front lawn. Gallagher, bless her heart, fumbles harder than a rookie footy player in the rain. Well, oh, thank you, Senator Roberts. Oh, I didn't attend that session. Didn't attend? Mate, that's your bloody job. What were you doing instead? Off filming a cameo in Neighbours? Shopping at Aldi for the cheap Tim Tams? She rattles on with more ohs and ums than a Year 9 speech contest. It's embarrassing. And Roberts, not satisfied, sharpens the knife. He pushes again. What about the death tax? What about the land tax? Are these going to be stacked up like a bloody Domino's meat lover's pizza of despair? And Gallagher, she's looking like she just realized she's locked the keys in the car. Here's the thing, mates. Roberts wasn't just throwing out random conspiracy theories. These ideas were on the table at the Productivity Roundtable. That's meant to be where big brains gather to solve Australia's problems, right? Instead, they're spitballing ideas that sound like they were scribbled on a pub coaster at midnight. A death tax. A spare room tax? What is this, an episode of Black Mirror filmed at Centrelink? Australians already pay through the nose for everything. Groceries, fuel, power bills. And now these geniuses want to charge us for having the audacity to die or for owning a bloody guest room? It's insane, but here's where it gets really spicy. Roberts connects the dots and drops the hammer. He asks, point blank, if all this madness, the spare room tax, the land tax, the whole shebang, is just a ploy to shove everyday Aussies out of their homes to make way for new arrivals who, surprise, surprise, vote Labor. Mate, you could feel the temperature in the room spike 10 degrees. Penny Wong nearly dropped her folder. Staffers started shuffling papers like they were suddenly very busy, and Gallagher's face? It was like watching someone try to download Netflix on dial-up. Pure panic. Now, whether you agree with Roberts or not, you've got to admit, that's a bloody ballsy question. Because he's not just poking at Labor's tax plans. He's pulling back the curtain on what a lot of Aussies already whisper about down at the pub. That immigration isn't just about skills shortages or population growth. It's about votes. More people flooding in, more housing pressure, more Labor-friendly electorates. And who cops the pain? Regular Australians who suddenly can't afford rent, can't buy a home, and apparently might be forced to shack up with strangers because some Canberra think tank reckons it's efficient. Efficient, my ass. Gallagher's response? Pure word salad. She mumbles about housing supply and intergenerational equity like she's reciting a speech written by ChatGPT on half battery. She says she wasn't at that session. Again, like, what sessions was she at? A wine tasting? A meditation retreat? She insists Labor has no plans for a death tax, but somehow can't shut the door on these ideas either. It's like watching someone try to explain why their dog ate the homework. No conviction, no confidence, just waffle. And this is the core of the drama. Mates, on one side, you've got Roberts, fiery, blunt, unfiltered. The kind of bloke who'll tell you your car's a lemon straight to your face. On the other, you've got Gallagher, dodging, weaving, mumbling. The kind of politician who makes you want to bang your head against the nearest wall because they won't just answer the bloody question. And Albanese? He's nowhere to be seen. Probably off hugging a tradie for another photo op or making promises about 1 million homes that'll never materialize. The truth is, this exchange has ripped the band-aid off. Because if there's even a hint that Labor is entertaining policies that could force Aussies out of their homes, that's political dynamite. And Roberts, love him or hate him, lit the fuse right there in the chamber. It's not just about taxes or housing. It's about trust. Can Australians trust their government not to treat them like tenants in their own country? Can they trust that the policies being cooked up in Canberra aren't quietly designed to shift demographics for political gain? These are the big, uncomfortable questions, and Roberts just yelled them into the mic like a bloke who's had enough. And you know what's wild? This wasn't on some fringe podcast or in a dodgy Facebook group. This was live, on the record, in Parliament. Broadcast to the nation. You can't spin that. You can't hide it. Aussies heard it straight from the horse's mouth, or in Gallagher's case, straight from the horse's, I wasn't at that session. And that's why this clip is blowing up. Because it cuts through all the polished political nonsense and shows us what really happens when the spin doctors aren't fast enough to cover the cracks. So let's not sugarcoat it. Roberts humiliated Gallagher. Full stop. He exposed the gaps, the weakness, the lack of answers. And by extension, he humiliated the entire Albanese government, because if your finance minister can't front up to basic questions without folding like a Kmart camping chair, what does that say about the team running the country? It says they're winging it. It says they're hoping Aussies are too distracted, too worn out, too busy paying bills to notice what's happening under their noses. But Aussies notice. Oh, we bloody notice. Every time rent goes up another $100 a week. Every time interest rates climb while wages crawl slower than a pensioner crossing the road. Every time a politician tells us we're building more homes while house prices still shoot up like a rocket. People aren't stupid. They feel it. And Roberts, for all his quirks, tapped into that frustration and put it right in Gallagher's face. That's why this moment matters. And look, if you've made it this far, do us a favor. Smash that like button harder than Roberts smashed Gallagher's talking points. Subscribe so you don't miss the next Parliament brawl. Because trust me, this circus isn't ending anytime soon. And drop a comment. Who do you reckon came out on top in this showdown? Was it Roberts with his blunt truths, or Gallagher with her polished but empty waffle? I know what side I'm on. And while you're here, grab the Who Voted for This shirt links in the description.